Okey dokey, Ron.
Hi, you ready? Hi.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to start the policy committee meeting. All members are in attendance of the committee. First, any public comment on this policy? It was posted on, any policy, if you have any questions, concerns, it was posted by Mr. Gaham, condensed version of it, and also our policies are on the website. Any public comment? None. Okay, on Press Plus Policy Issue 108. Before, we used to read them. We were given it ahead of time. All members have looked it over. You guys agree to just move on, and if there are any questions on it, or just move on from it and move on to Erins Law.
I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay, the only one I have was I spoke with Mr. Gaham in the curriculum and sex education, 660. It's also here on his condensed one. The board is in control of that, just to let everybody know. The board still controls that curriculum. There is a right to, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Gaham, a right to opt out of it, or the board can choose not to teach it or teach it. So those are the options that we have. Okay?
Correct. The law that came down
Yeah.
by the state of Illinois says that you have to adopt the national standards for sex education if you're going to teach it in your schools. So it leaves you with, as he said, two options. If you teach it, you adopt the national standards, and any child or any parent that doesn't want those national standards taught to their child, they can opt out. Or, as he was alluded to, you just don't teach sex ed at all in your schools. Those are your two options. You don't get you can't edit the curriculum. That's not how it works.
Right.
So it's something to look at forward, or if somebody has a question, address it, but I wanted to make that clear because I understand we had an issue already.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure you guys can take that with Mr. Gaham.
Okay.
Okay. So any other questions on press policy 108?
The only one I had a question on is 4170, allows parents to exempt their child from a lockdown drill.
It's the law.
What does a kid do when there's a real lockdown?
I agree.
They go home?
I agree, but I think
That's really poor.
Well,
And
no, it's for the lockdown drill.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they just don't get to participate. The way I read it is that the parents can opt out and not have them participate in a drill, and then
Right.
unfortunately, they're just not prepared if there is a real emergency, so.
Exactly,
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very poor.
I mean, and those days are so heavy to do and talk about, and I know that,
Yeah, we just had Michigan.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, exactly. and that's
Does
what's-
anybody have any, Marla or Mr. Gaham, anybody complain about lockdown drills?
We haven't had a single one. As a matter of fact, we've even had parents who have come in and during one of ours, we say, hey, we just need you to sit here, and they've sat through it. We don't do live shooting during our lockdown drills. Ours a lot of the times is simply, at least at the high school, it's, I was on the intercom and said, hey, there's an intruder by this room. And the teachers just communicate with their students, this is what you would do. This is our exit, this is our barricade process, that EDRS training that they do. That is what our drills have become. It's no longer the hide in the corner. This policy came about because of an SEL situation where it's just emotional for a child to have to work with it's fear. It sucks. I get it, and I agree with you, Larry. I mean, it's really tough. That's why we got to make sure that on January 4th we are having Beacon come back out. We're going to make sure that our staff is continuing to be trained in what they're supposed to do. So if that situation does come where that kid did opt out, at least the teacher's going to say, "This is what you got to do."
I agree.
Right.
As a parent, I believe it's a very,
I was gonna say, at our building, we do not conduct them the same way, which I think is a little bit different, why there aren't parents who are, we don't do that kind of thing with our younger students. Our third, fourth, and fifth graders, the teachers will have conversations with them about what we would do. We don't do like there's an intruder here, what would you do? Because it's not appropriate, for our little people. So it's not, I think the parents that would be really concerned about that kind of scary factor with the little kid is run differently at our buildings than it is in ours.
So what do you do for K1 and 2?
They go to a safe place and hide in the room.
So, when they talk about it, I'm saying, like, what do they say intruder? Like, is there different language used?
We've talked about different things with them, I mean, because I have been in situations where we've done lockdowns for things other than
Sure.
intruders, I mean. And-
So you just call it like lockdown?
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely, and then, I mean, I've been in buildings where like a dog came in, like we had to close and like the dog was running around school, and, you know, so we had to do that.
Okay.
And a lot of them, you know, clearly, we talked with the teachers about, you know, if this were to happen, I would be announcing where it would be, and so you would know as a staff member, you know, what exit you could take your kids to and things like that, but we don't announce with the younger kids. They say
Okay.
And again, I just think, you know, I think a lot of that is giving the parents the say. I don't, as a parent, I don't think I've ever exempt my child, my
Yeah.
personal opinion. from-
And there could be things that we haven't thought about, you know, like crippling anxiety issues, autism, you know, things like that, like that you wouldn't, maybe it wouldn't work, you know? I mean, which in that case, there's special things set up for the child, you know?
I agree. So, with all that said, it's important for it. Any grants?
Okay, your first reading will be on the 13th, right? First reading will be the 13th. The second reading of 2220 with the live streaming on that will be up for your review as well.
Okay.
So that
There is other on here, so. I see it.
Is that just in case of it?
Is that what's down here, what I see down here at the bottom?
Oh, I always put other, yeah. That's my new thing. I'm gonna make sure we always have other on these.
You want to go ahead and
Absolutely.
Yeah, so one of the things you'll notice, if you go through the Cliff Notes version, which I did, most of that's revolving around something called Erins Law. And you may know it, you may not know it, but what Mr. Mazurk and I decided, he decided, and I love the idea, is so many of our policies are revolving around Erins Law. What the heck is Erins Law? And so what I did is I kind of gave you guys a little one-page synopsis of what Erins Law was, and how we do it here, and some of the things that we're going to have to change just to make sure that we're in compliance with it. So just so you know, her name was Erin Marin, and she's actually an Illinois resident. And in 2009, the Illinois, her representative is actually the one they called Erins Law based on her. She was obviously sexually abused as a child, and so her voice has become very powerful. As of 2019, over 35 of the states have already adopted Erins Law in some form in schools.
37.
37? Okay, 37 have already adopted it. And so, it kind of gives you a rundown of everything you need to know. In terms of teaching it, it requires an age-appropriate techniques of talking to children about child abuse. So at the elementary, Guardian Angels, who is actually an Erins Law advocate, comes in and talks to grade 5. At the junior high, it's part of the health curriculum, and at the high school, same thing. It's part of the health curriculum and part of the SOS program that Steve Sarcini does. That's the suicide prevention program. So it is talked about at all the grade levels. So that terms we're in compliance. With our staff, it's actually 2 parts, and it's both in GC and training. You're required to be a mandated reporter, and sexual abuse is one of the abuses that you have to report. One of the things that we don't have, because at least I know the high school doesn't, because I pulled up the high school one, and if one doesn't, then I'm going to assume none of them do. We need to actually add for families in the handbook phone numbers and contacts for hotlines. So that is one thing that you will see in changes of the handbook coming up. So that is one of the things I ask you to do. And as you'll notice, the last thing, it's policy 4165, 590, 5120, 5150, 5125, 5220, and then 7250 all revolve around this very important topic.
If anybody wants to go outside and learn more about it, just go online up to her site, that site, and you'll see you guys, some of the statistics and stuff will really.
Yeah.
Sure does.
She did a really good interview on CNN, kind of talking about her story and everything. But yeah, that's kind of Erins Law. I mean, I didn't give it as much respect. I give it a lot of respect, but it's really hard to describe something that powerful in a matter of minutes. But absolutely, just Google Erins Law and you'll see it.
Just to confirm real quick, 37 states have adopted, 13 are in the process of adopting, so it'll be 50.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think it's a
Very neat.
great tool.
Okay.
All right, topics that were brought up. I see the 2230, requiring the public comment to be limited to what is on the agenda. I believe that our superintendent spoke to ISB lawyer. She said it was very gray area. Not supported by any legal cases she can find, and would not suggest pushing the issue, especially when it is only 3 minutes and you should not respond anyway. And I think, so, I just wanted to make that
Yep.
aware to the board, who's here on his notes.
And again, that's the IASB. I did not tell John. John has no idea. But after I made my last comment, somebody still asked me, well, is there legal precedent? So I did email the IASB lawyers. And she said, So when a lawyer goes, man, I go, all right, that's a no.
Yep.
So taking the committee public, again, this is in 2:230, taking the committee public comment down to 3 minutes to match general meetings. The board designates length of public comment, which, read that. But you can do whatever you want, is the explanation that is here. But I would not touch this topic at this time. We should just never create policy that appears to attack public members. And I think in my personal opinion, I don't think we've attacked anybody. I think, tensions have been hot, but I don't think everybody's ever attacked anybody, in my personal opinion.
No, it hasn't, but the meeting has to be conducted professionally and flow.
Again,
Yeah.
I mean, these are the things that I'm sure.
Yeah,
Mr.
and pertaining to that too, as I've been on the board, you are always learning, and that was the practice we did before, so I was following through. And while things can be skewed that way, I've talked to
I will never step on the president's toes.
people on
That's the
it.
board.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, when people come in here and they talk, I'll say what they have to say. No, I'm just saying, because, at the end of the day, I mean, we're going to address it eventually. I'm sure the superintendent will, you guys
Yeah.
will speak with them.
Yeah.
And,
Just as always, I wish there was total respect.
But again, these are not my notes. These were from the.
Yeah, that one came to me. These three things are him. They were brought to me, and so I kind of made a note for everybody to
Okay,
know.
sure.
Make the policy committee.
And I don't know if that one was in terms of that, or just why it was confusion between 3 and 5 minutes, I think,
Yeah.
is the big thing. So,
Well, yeah.
so whoever brought it, I can't remember, it was a community member.
Yeah,
sent me
well,
an
it was on,
email.
I know this was put out, so I just wanted to make,
Yeah.
because it's on here. Did you put it on there?
No, I'm trying to remember who sent it to me. It wasn't a community
Well,
member.
especially with, newspapers trying to
Yes.
skew things and everything. I appreciate you doing that.
So I just wanted to just bring its attention to brought to policy by our superintendent.
Absolutely.
But otherwise than that, any other public comment or questions or concerns?
There's one more.
There's number 3.
So that's the one that was brought up to me.
By a board member or?
Great question.
The use of social media by board members?
Is Lori, is that what?
Arbitrary.
Yeah,
She was
That
going
would-
to
yeah.
arbitrary, yeah.
I don't believe that any elected, I get what she said, and you can't see precedent there. But let me read it. The use of social media by board members. I know Lori talked about this as well. I'm not sure of anything that needs changed or just addressed. As the policy, I mean, I don't think I violated, I'm speaking to me personally, I don't know if you guys, I know some don't go out there. But I believe when you pass on information or you ask questions, you use social media as an elected person because you can't go to every door and every person. And I think people get offended by when things go out there. Again, if anybody can show me case law where it says that it's wrong, then please do, but I don't believe that board members out there now, unless they're trying, how do I say this, working to convince other board members or something like that, I get it, but using social media by board members, I don't see an issue with it. I mean, I understand there's a lot of people that like to keep things quiet, but, I've never been that person in 6 years I've been on the board. So,
I think it's a great informational platform. Something that I do just for my own is that I notice, like say one board member has already answered something or commented, I make sure that I don't reply back to that person, and keep it informational. That's just something that I do personally.
right.
And then, otherwise, it can be a great informational tool.
So, yeah, I'm not sitting here, I'm talking about me in general, 'cause,
Yeah.
I use social media. But at the same time, I I believe it's a great tool. I think a lot of information gets out from what we do here at the school.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we have video recordings and audio recordings, people will see it more. But I have no problem with using social media unless you guys do.
And I think something that's important too, that we all keep in mind, I think we talked about with Lori as well, is that as far as like casting a bad light on fellow board members or the board as a whole, you know, I think that doesn't help us as a board, you know, whether that's barred from, I mean, you can't say that, but I think that it's good to keep in mind that, you know, we respect each other, and that shows on social media as well.
I don't think any of us,
No.
that I've seen
No.
attacked any of each other here.
No.
So, so I don't, when this came up to you, if you could be more specific and explain what it was about in regard.
It was just simply,
A general,
yeah. Do you know your board members using social media? Okay.
yep.
Like, if you're adults,
Yes.
not my job to babysit. Somebody brought it up to me, said, okay.
Yep.
And you are free to associate with who you want to on there.
I think I read through the policy that it pertains to, and it doesn't say anything specific in terms of, you know, using, social media, as long as we're following, you know, the same, you know, OMA, that we're not, you know, discussing things that shouldn't be discussed in public before it's discussed at a board meeting. I mean, I think we all generally understand that, and those, you know, those, parameters that, you know, that
Boundaries.
if we're making those comments, you know, or, you know, this is my personal opinion as opposed to a board opinion when we're talking about board issues, you know, and I think we all have been, or, you know, if we've discussed it put it out on social media, I think we just say like, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, I haven't seen anything that kind of would sway one way or the other that, you know, we're doing. Just following those parameters and keep doing that, and, you know, be fine.
Yeah, same thing. So unless you guys don't want to take it further and change something, it's up to you guys. I'm open to discussion.
I'm good.
Any other questions or concerns for the committee? Public? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Or did you ask, I'm sorry, did you ask for second public comment?
Yeah.
I didn't hear. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I'll do it again. Any public comment? No? Casey, you have nothing?
I'm good.
All right. So I have a motion to adjourn, please.
Thank you.
Second.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Ms. Black.
All in favor?